couldn't go around. Ask like who you really are. Yeah, how you take it too far. I'll never fall for it again. I know better now. Went through all the doubts. Thank God that we're not together. I know better. I know better now. Went through all the doubts. Thank God that we're not together. I know better now. Thought you were my heaven, more like a jail sentence. Oh, I was so wrong. You had bad intentions. A blessing and a curse. I don't know what's worse. Oh, I hate how much it hurt. So I know better now. Went through all the doubts. Thank God that we're not together. I know better. I know better now. Went through all the doubts. Thank God that we're not together. I know better now. I know better now. Worked through all the doubts. Thank God that we're not together. I know better. I know better now. Went through all the doubts. Thank God that we're not together. I know better. I know better now. Went through all the doubts. Thank God that we're not together. I know better now.
Welcome. Tonight's going to be kind of laid back, chill. As everybody knows, my name is 12 Gauge. This is my channel. Welcome. Just kind of jamming here, jamming to the sounds. I got a big announcement coming up before the end of the show. So hopefully you'll enjoy what I'm about to say. Let me put this thing down. We have our special guest here tonight again. Karla is here waiting backstage. Let me say hello to some of the people in the chat. Rondi, hello. Christy, Aquarius. I don't know if there's anybody else in the chat that hasn't yet made themselves known. Like I said, my name's 12 Gauge. Welcome to my channel. I'm not going to get into all the semantics of it. You know what to do. If you enjoy the live tonight, hit the like, hit the subscribe. You know, I had somebody leave a comment tonight on the community post that I had, and they said, "Oh my God, really? You are gonna do the Chris Watt thing? It's like 2 years old. He's been convicted. He's already in prison and things of that nature." Well, just because we start off with Chris Watts does not mean that we're going to end up with Chris Watts. I want to talk a little bit about Scott Peterson. I want to talk about some of the missing people that have been missing, and things of that nature. There's some negative Nancy's out there, and you know, um, I hope that you're here watching because there's nothing better to do on a Friday night than to critique the people that are trying to give you some kind of entertainment. But all's well that ends well. So I'm going to bring up my co-host tonight. She's been on my panel more than once, and she has a very solid understanding of this case, and she has a very level head as far as some of the other things that we're going to be talking about. So without further ado, let's bring Karla to the stage. Always mess this up. Howdy, howdy.
Well, how is everybody on this Friday night? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, perfect. Perfect.
Good, good.
How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. I had OT and PT came through today, so I got my little workout on. I mean, for your audience, for those who don't know, I'm battling breast cancer, but I'm doing good, and I am excited to be here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I don't know if you follow my channel during the day or anything, but I posted something a little earlier about the cameras along the route of the Idaho 4, and I was just messing around trying to find, some cameras on Google Maps, and I was able to find some. So hey Jeff, looky here. You see
Mhm.
this? Jeff, you gonna teach me how to play, brother? Anyways, um, I'm glad everybody's here on this Friday night. Because sometimes we need a place to go and hang out, place that's drama free, a place that's just about having a good time and you know, um, all that good stuff. So, Karla, um, it's been quite a week. We got to spend it with Gabe on
Yeah.
Wednesday, and then we discussed a little bit more. I don't know if you caught my live last night about the profile and stuff, but that's the kind of the avenue that I wanted to take tonight is kind of learning to understand the mindset of a killer. Maybe I should have put that, but I wanna get to that point. Where we start to diagram a profile and dive. Excuse me, I swallowed a fly. Um, you know, to get into that mindset of a killer.
Mhm.
So um, tonight, I really want to just have a kind of chill conversation. Nothing really deep. And whoa, where'd you go?
Oh. Oh, I don't
Nothing
know. I
really.
was I know I was here one minute and gone the next.
Oh, there we are. We're in the coffee shop, so we're just kind of chilling in the coffee shop. How do you like the backdrop?
I like it. I like it. But I mean, I like it a lot. And when we get to talking about Chris Watts, I mean, I have some I have some thoughts. They're kind of controversial though. I mean, so I mean, we'll get into it because we want to talk about the mindset. So I am gonna play a little bit of a devil's advocate.
Okay.
When we start talking about that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. If anybody wants to hop up on panel tonight, it's kind of like an open panel. If you know anything about this case, let me know and I'll shoot the link down there and you guys can hop up and kind of have a conversation with Carla and myself. We always that's how we do it here. We keep it drama free. Everybody's opinion is valid. And we'd like to have a good time in the chat, but if it gets out of hand, people start cussing or people start, demanding their way, you know, mods if you just time them out or, do your deal, do your job. So without further ado, let's dive into this. Let's dive into this about the mindset of Chris Watts. So, Carla, kind of walk me through the case a little bit. I was watching a little bit of it the other day,
Hmm.
and let me give you a little bit about what I saw and where I'm at. Okay,
Okay.
um, what I saw was Shannon Watts came home from a plane plane trip, and she went into the house. There, she was caught on ring camera. Um, the next morning, her best friend tried to contact her. Ring, ring, ring. Text message. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Um, she got concerned. Went over. She called Chris. Um, she called the police first. The police beat Chris there. Um, Chris let him in the house. They went into the house. He went in through the garage. He waited kind of like a minute or so. He let him in. They
Mhm.
started asking questions, this, that, and the other. So take it from there as a mindset of a killer. What do you believe that Chris was thinking at this point?
I mean, just picking up from that part of the story, I think okay, so when any of us, when we do something, whatever it is, right, there is always a counteraction. So I think that Chris was stunned and surprised that the friend was there with the police. When we see him kind of come up, you do kind of see his demeanor kind of like, whoa, like, okay, yeah, let me open the door, like, blah blah blah. And the cop played it cool. I love how the cop and was like, because the friend was like ready to barge in there, and he was like, hey, Chris, is it okay? It's his house. Can I come in? And so he played it by the book. So in that instance, I really feel like he was extremely shocked and surprised because he hadn't had time to come back and clean up anything on the inside. So where does your wife go? You obviously your wife entered the home, and then there is no exit of her coming out. We don't know how she got out of the house. And so I think one of the things that really struck me as odd is, he's thinking on his feet. He's not thinking things through at this time because he wasn't anticipating the wellness check that the friend wanted to do. So he's quickly thinking on his feet. I mean, he goes and he gets her ring, like, look, she left her ring. And he waits a minute. So there's a lot could have happened in that 1 minute where he even goes and opens the door. What did he go and get things out of her car? Who knows? But um he's definitely surprised, about it all, and he wants to kind of blame, the victim. She probably, I think he's trying to paint that picture of, she probably left me. But then the friend is like, hey, but her purse is here, her phone is here. I believe her phone was even there. Like, like if she was gonna leave you, brother, she was gonna take a purse at minimum. Like, come on. So everything's getting ruled out. And then I believe they go to the neighbors. And he's standing. Now this is when, if you watch the Netflix, and I've got it playing in the background, but if you watch it, you look at him, his demeanor changes, because
Yes.
at that point he realizes that his neighbor's camera caught him leaving, but Shanann and the girls never left. So the I think what he was anticipating telling everyone is, she left me, for another guy. Maybe she's living her best life somewhere with my kids, I don't know. But that storyline wasn't going to happen because there is no evidence of him leaving, and that camera was facing that house the entire day.
Right.
So
And also, Carla, while they were in there, he was looking through the phone. He was, the police asked him, were y'all having any problems? Were y'all having any marital problems? And he said, yes, we were in the middle of a separation. We're starting to separate. And the policeman asked him, well, how's it going? And he kind of smirked and, kind of said, well, it's going, So
mhm,
at this point, he's not broke up about it. He's not nervous about where's my wife, where's my little girls, none of that. And
nothing.
and like you said, then they went to the camera next door to the neighbor's house. He pointed to the garage, and like you were saying, at this point, the neighbor's camera caught his truck backing up.
Hmm.
And, at this point, Chris is really fidgety. He's very hyperverbal. He's over explaining himself. He's doing all this, that, and the other. And, at this point, the neighbor's like, what the heck, man? What the heck? This dude is not a talker. He's very quiet and reserved.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on with this dude? And guys in the chat, guys and gals, would y'all put a one if you know the case? I mean, we're assuming that you know the case, so that's why we're describing it the way we are. Please let us know whether you know the case or not. One that you do, two that you don't, and hopefully that we're explaining it to in a way that you can understand it. And I'll let you take over from there, Carla.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think his demeanor, just completely gave it away. Even when he was talking to the media, it's desperately saying, hey, my girls, bring them back. I let a, everything was very robotic. There wasn't any emotions. I can't imagine, how if you don't know where someone is, and they're pregnant. I mean, his wife was pregnant at the time, and you're just as calm and can be. And this is something that we've talked about before, is that control, that emotional intelligence, that emotional control that somebody like that has. Because you've got to have control over your emotions. But you already know what happened. But you're so in control that you forget to act as if nothing is going on, right? You forget to give us that emotion as well. I mean, it's just a blank, And so I mean, from there, what ended up happening was, whenever you start to watch it, they're asking him questions, and in between there, he's getting a lot of press. And then the cops know about his mistress, but they don't tell him about the mistress. They
Right.
let him keep talking, and they let him keep talking, because at this point, they're just trying to let him kind of, hang himself. And he does, and he eventually does. I mean, he has to seem open enough, and to where he's not running, but he eventually does, whenever they do the polygraph. And in my opinion, when I was watching that again and refreshing myself for tonight, I did pick up on, the breathing. He was on purposely breathing, heavy breathing, and she's telling him, like, "Hey, you're all over the place. Like,
Yeah.
stop,
And as,
stop."
and as we've noticed in other cases, when people have been brought into a polygraph, even though a polygraph is inadmissible in court, it
Mm-hmm.
still gives you an insight on the demeanor of the person. Like the person that was exhibiting the polygraph, she told him, she said, "I'm going to ask you a couple lies." And, and she basically told him, she said, "Man, you're a bad liar. It's written all over your face. The beeping sound's going off. We can tell that you're lying on those questions that I asked you. Now let's get to the polygraph." So she asked him the questions of the polygraph and things of that nature. And he obviously, even before that, they had planted what they called a scapegoat theory in his mind, where they said, okay, if did you walk in on something happening? Did you walk in on her hurting the girls? Did you do something that caused something bad to happen? And he's like, no, no, no. And and then they took ah he took the polygraph.
Mm-hmm.
He failed it. And then at that point, they're letting him know, hey, you failed it, but you know that already. You know that already. Is there anything that you really want to tell us? Come on, just tell us the truth. We know already. We know what's going on. Tell us the truth. And then they leave the room. Let the dad come in. At this point, the dad has flown in. He's come in to talk to his son. And then what happens?
Yeah, exactly. He takes their narrative. Cheyenne did, he walked in on Cheyenne, I believe it was strangling the girls, is what he claimed. And then he had to take Cheyenne out, because Cheyenne was hurting the girls, which it was exactly like what you said, what they planted they threw a bait out there, and he it was what he gravitated to, because the truth was too hard for him, to say out loud. It really was. And so, and we see that where he wants to detach himself from that, and at this point now it's about him, and the sympathy. And of course, his dad is, parents are always going to go back for their child, and his dad, showed, some concern, and and we see that. And the dad gets emotional, and that's when we kind of see Chris Watts get a little emotional. And and then he comes in, and then they're just asking him. But if you notice, he wasn't able to tell them what happened. They had to ask questions, and he was just kind of answering the questions. He wasn't like, hey, well, I strangled them, I strangled her, then blah blah blah, like, and it
Right.
wasn't until, like, they put that urgency, like, come on, made him the hero, they had to come at him. They planted that, and then they did a wonderful job of coming in and playing him off as the hero, like, tell us where they're at, you can do this. And they're coaching him through it. And then boom, he tells them where the little girls are and where everybody's at, you know and it's also, where, like, the place where they found the little girls was where he worked. And we looked at the serial killers, I mean, Ted Bundy and everybody, they killed and they dropped in this very specific places that they knew. So he does that same thing. Chris Watts does that same thing. Is what he knows is his job, so he goes there to, unfortunately, bury Cheyenne in a very shallow grave, and then place his deceased little girls in the oil tank. They would, if he wouldn't have confessed, they maybe have found Cheyenne, but they probably would not have found the little girls. I mean, and their bodies would have combusted inside, imploded,
Right.
if they didn't, get them out in time,
And you
and
made an interesting point there, and Leon stated he accuses Shanann, and you
mhm,
said there was deflection there as well. So during the interviewing and all that, even with the father, it wasn't until the father came in that he actually broke down for the very first time.
yeah,
The interrogator said, I've never seen anybody not break down over their family being missing, and he was using past tense words. Um, Bella always loved those shoes. She would always wear them, like past tense, like without even realizing his speech was confessing without even confessing, if that makes sense.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And those are like the small things that we cannot control. Like, we can spit out a lie, but it is hard to remember the lie. It's
Hmm.
easy to remember the truth because it is what it is.
Right.
What your body was there. Because when we experience things, we experience it with our body. So it's another reason why, like, you'll hear some people say, they do yoga, they do this, all this, and they release some of that, trauma through their bodies. The body experiences what you did. So it's very
Yeah.
hard for your body to lie. And when you're sitting there, you would have to, that's hard to do, is to guard every word that's coming out of your mouth, which is something that he didn't do. Unlike Ted Bundy did an awesome job at that. He was very smart, and he guarded everything that came out of his mouth.
Right.
Where
Exactly.
Watts didn't. And that was a sign, for them. And
So, so have you ever? I mean, I know that this is the first time that you and I have talked about this case, but while it was going on, did you point out to yourself, well, this guy's a psychopath, or this guy's a sociopath, or this guy's a little bit of both, narcissist, this, that, and the other? Were you able? I know that you have an analytical mind. That's why I'm
Mhm.
asking. Were you able to placate any of those mental capacities toward this individual, or even now as we're talking about it?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely did in the beginning, but where I concentrated some, and this is where, in the beginning, I said, hey, I have some controversial, information, that I'm going to hand out. And this is where it gets. So before I say what I'm going to say, I do want to say a disclaimer to the audience. And the disclaimer is there isn't anything that any one person can do or say that we would agree upon, with our frontal lobes and say, yeah, yeah, you know what, she deserved it, she deserved to get murdered or killed or anything like that. There isn't anything, that grants that, as we humans, we like to do the me too, hey, I was hungry and I went to Subway, me too, hey, my wife cheated on me, so I killed her. Well, man, I don't know that I would have killed her, So just to say that, I'm not at all blaming Cheyenne and what I'm about to say, but I am going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here, where I kind of concentrated and I really wish I could get more information on is Cheyenne. Because here's the thing, Marty, and here's what we see. We see a woman, okay? She posts everything on Facebook, or believe it was Facebook. Everything,
Yeah, yeah.
everything was staged. Now, this is my opinion. Everything was staged. We see it that she tells them, "Tell me when you're about to walk up, so I can film the girls. Tell me this. Tell me that." Now, at the same time, she belittles this man. So she's in a very public form, they were doing a Christmas thing, and she's saying to the camera, "Oh, my husband, oh, he didn't, because he forgot the phone, so now I gotta go get it," and he doesn't listen, and she kind of puts him down,
Okay,
and so for me, I'm just kind of like, okay, we know that his family didn't really like Cheyenne,
okay,
and oh, they don't like her. And she herself is on this platform saying, "Well, I'm the more assertive one." And her friends even say, "Well, she's bossy." Well, she's boss in a good way, but she is bossy. So it's like we never know what goes on behind closed doors with people, and that's going to be something that we will never know. But, I almost think like, what led this man to kill his wife? And they, like, you have his mistress, I believe, sent him a video, and she's very positive. "Chris, thank you for coming. I love spending time with you, blah blah blah." Very positive, so it's like, if you've been beat down, if he was, right, because we don't know, total speculation here, just playing devil's advocate, but if he was beat down by his wife and he couldn't do anything right, and she's on public, because it's one thing to tell your partner, "Hey, you messed up on that," or "That wasn't, blah, blah, blah." But it's something totally different when you put it up on social media. His
right,
coworkers are
right,
watching that. Everybody's watching how you messed this up, how you couldn't even follow this simple directions, and it's like, whoa, so if he was beat up, over and over again, I'm not justifying what he did at all, by no means, but it does kind of give us an insight, like, okay, would he have killed anyone else? I don't think that he would have. I think it was, he met someone that wasn't putting him down. Now, instead of getting a divorce, now that's kind of hard, right? Because she's putting up in social media this facade, we're the perfect couple, we're this, we're that, and in fact, they really weren't. They really weren't. They were not that perfect couple. So it's hard to come back and say, "Now I'm going to divorce her."
right.
Maybe it's better if she just disappeared.
Kim,
So,
that's a great comment. Do you think those nutrition patches that they wore mess with the brain chemistry like a drug might do? Well, that's a great thought, because I think that she was selling Lavelle products or something like that. And
mhm.
those patches and some of those shakes and stuff like that, I mean, they could give you a change of anything, you know? I mean, because it's going right into your system. So that's a great thought right there. Here's the other one. It says, so if he was beat down by his wife, what was wrong in his brain that he killed his babies too?
Yeah. What was wrong with his brain? But here's the thing, right? Is that you people, whenever we're going to do something heinous like that, it cuts off.
Mm-hmm.
It just cuts off. You're no longer, you are just doing it. You are just doing it. His little girls, did not deserve that. But how could the wife, and let's go with his what we feel his original theory was going to be, right? Like, I'm going to leave, my wife left me. That's kind of the theory that he was going to say. How could his wife leave him but leave behind the girls? Like, that's not going to make sense. If she's going to leave him, she's going to take the girls. Any mom would. Most moms would. They're going to take their children with them. So I think he was like, well, I love them. I want to keep them alive, and he kept them alive. They were alive the whole way to go bury their mom. That was in the floorboard. And they knew that she was there and mommy was hurt. You know, but he couldn't return back with them.
Right.
But that's interesting though, right? That he kept them alive. He kept them alive the whole way and then didn't strangle them until they got there, and then threw them in the oil thing. But so that's very interesting. But I think it's just about it's about me. Look, I met someone, I want to be with that person now. And how am I going to explain a divorce when everything is put, on social media, and we're supposed to be this happy couple? Because he lied to her. He lied to the
Right.
mistress and said, we're already separated. They weren't separated at the time. Now he
Here's
was
a
distancing himself.
here's another statement.
Yeah.
It says, "Why have sex with her before he murdered her?" I remember that. It's like
Yeah.
they had sex before he killed her.
Yeah, and what is that? What does that tell us? It's just about him. Now remember though, take it a step back though, Marty. I can't read the comments are coming in kind of fast, but let's take it a step back. Remember, he withheld sex from her.
Yeah.
He withheld it. So when he gave it, what happened? I mean, me as a woman, that is when we're most vulnerable, right? When we're with a man, we're most vulnerable. So in order to get that vulnerability and her to calm down, because she already suspected. She was telling her friend, I think he's getting it from somewhere else. We haven't been intimate. I've been apart. We haven't seen each other, blah, blah, blah. So what did he do to his victim? He had to get her to calm down, take a deep breath, get vulnerable. And he knew the only way Cheyenne was going to get vulnerable with him and kind of leave that alone and her guard be down, because if not, he was going to have to fight her.
Right.
And it could have gone either way at that point, and he couldn't afford for her to escape or come out of that house. So what did he do? He gave her what he withheld sex from her. We know that. And he gave that to her. What happened? She was vulnerable. And then at that time, that's when he did what he did. It just goes to think, how much he had the premeditation to that. And men do. I mean, some men, I'm not going to say all men, but some men do, they will withhold that. They will withhold sex. They're going to withhold that because that's how they try to control, or just whatever it is that the
Right.
end goal
Because
is.
um it's the chemical aspect of it. Because whenever you have that happen, all these chemicals and everything happens in your body. Well,
Mhm.
it's kind of like it's a pleasure thing. So if you're withholding it, that means that you're almost craving it. So it's almost like I'm not going to give you what you want because this is a method of my control.
Yeah.
Jeff says, could the final decision to do the awful thing, Chris, conclude with him wanting to compare the sex with his wife versus the sex with his other woman? Good question, Jeff.
That's a great question. I mean, to me, I think for what we know of, I think it's sex. Plain and simple. I think it's just sex. It's just sex with the mistress, sex with a woman. I don't think it had anything to do with comparing. I think it just has to do with he had to create chaos. Okay. So this is a man, he's got a perfect life with her. They coexist very well. He's got to try to create chaos because he's already interested in somebody else. So, what a better way to create chaos than to withhold? And then when
I mean,
she,
one thing I never understand,
Mhm.
Carla, is how come men don't leave? Like in the recent Micah Miller case, are you
I'm, I
familiar
know
with
a
that?
little bit. I know a little bit about the Micah case. I definitely want to start diving into that one myself and start to get to know a little bit more. So I'm not too familiar with that one.
Well, what I know about that case is, supposedly he was with her since she was 13 years old. She used to babysit for him, and in comparison to these two cases, um, then they ended up getting married, but there was a level of control there. There was a level of control, and
Hmm.
it was off and on, the push and pull, push and pull, push and pull that we always talk about. And
Yeah.
eventually she took her own life, and there's a lot of conspiracy, whether he did it, whether he drove her to do it, this, that, and the other. Regardless, he didn't kill her. That's been revealed. So we can't say he did it or whether he didn't. But he too had a mistress already.
Yeah.
They were separated. She was moving on with her life. You know, um, they had two little kids, I think, or they have two little kids. And why not just move on?
Hmm.
Why not just leave it alone? Why not just leave the woman to be? Is it that if I can't have you, no one can have you, or your presence is too much for me to contemplate doing what I'm doing, not only to the kids but to you?
No, I think it's image.
Okay,
Image has a lot to do with it, especially when we're talking about a narcissist. Image, has a lot to do with the way they want to move forward. Like they don't want their image has to remain intact. And that's what I feel like whenever we see this type of crime being committed. It's about the image. I want to still look good, so getting a divorce is doesn't look good, because then that looks like, hey, you can't maintain a relationship, or anything else. And Cheyenne was very vocal, and she knew his ins and outs,
so she was a
and she
domineering one in the relationship, right?
she was, and she
She,
she admit she yeah, there's evidence, she says that in videos. And so, a lot of it too, I think, when couples get together, there's always going to be one that dominates in certain areas, and then the other person dominates in other areas. But I mean, I
right.
think that those unsaid behaviors between couples, it's one thing when it's experienced, behind closed doors and everything, but it's totally different when your partner's putting everything out on social media,
Right.
and it's telling everybody. I mean, that has got to wear on anyone. Like it would wear on me as a female if I'm with whomever I'm with, and they're saying all of my mistakes on social media and everything. So now imagine if we're going to get a divorce, now everything is going to get put on social media. And that was his, I feel like, in my opinion, that's probably what his fear was. And he, remember, he didn't anticipate that friend coming over to do a well check. And I'm going to be
Yeah.
honest with you, they've even said, hey, he if that didn't happen, and a few days went by and he completely was able to clean everything out, her purse, get rid of the purse, her car, all of that. He could have very well, they wouldn't have looked for the little girls in the oil. Their bodies would have imploded, and there would have been no sign that they were ever even in there after some time, right? Cheyenne being buried in a shallow grave. I mean, you would have to know how to get out to that place, how to get there.
But
You know, like,
how could you do that to your little girls? I mean, it's horrible. It's
uh,
horrible. Like, as humans, we're not programmed to kill. We're programmed to live. You know, we're programmed to fight for our lives and to push forward. Our spirit is very strong that way.
oh
So
yeah,
whenever you can take the life of a little child, that just blows my mind. I mean, taking anyone's life blows my mind, but especially a child.
definitely.
It just doesn't really
Def-
make sense to me.
mm.
And I guess
Oh,
that goes with the dynamics of what a killer really has in their mind compared to other people. Do you believe that he's a spree killer, or do you believe that this was premeditated?
oh, definitely premeditated.
Okay.
Definitely premeditated. I don't feel like like I said, I think we know what we know because he didn't anticipate Cheyenne's, friend coming. He just did it. And he made a conscious effort, and that is something where that comes in, to being that psychopath. You have to, at some point during that drive, it clicked for him, and he no longer was he detached himself, in his own brain, that, and looked at his little girls, not as his little girls, not as his daughters, not as vulnerable two children, but just two objects that are in the way of my goal that I have to get rid of. What can I do? Suffocate them, and I'm going to shove them inside those oil tanks, and I'm going to make sure that they go down in there, and I'm going to shove them in there. And he did. He shoved them in there because it wasn't an opening. The opening was not that big, but they were little enough. But
Right.
he had to boom, he had to shove them in there. But at that point they're objects.
Yeah.
They are merely objects, and that is something else when that happens. And another interesting thing that they've said, and I wish that more would come out, and maybe one day more will come out. But they did say that his Cheyenne um was at odds with his mom. So
Yeah.
I would love to know, like, why were we at odds? Was it a control thing? Was it because the mom controlled Chris and would tell him and guide him? And now the wife wants to do the same, and Chris is in
Yeah.
between these two people. You know,
Well, I mean, you know the case better than I do, and I just know from the movie that I've seen, and the documentaries. Was he really that weak of a man to be controlled by so many women? I mean, was he really able to be controlled? Like, or
I
was
think
it
so.
just,
I
yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I think he snapped. I mean, I think so. I mean, we see him, and he just doubled down, to Cheyenne, and then with his mistress treated him the opposite of what his if we're going down this rabbit hole, and we're just playing devil's advocate, right? But of how we feel like maybe his mom probably treated him and his wife probably treated him. Then you have the mistress that comes in and thinks, hey, you are wonderful. Lets him guide her, lets him kind of take, be more in that masculine energy, and he's going to do anything. If you've been put in your place, and you've been in feminine energy, not for so long, because of these women that have been in their masculine for so long, you
Right.
know then somebody comes in and allows you to do. I mean, it's quite a shift, and it was a motivator. And he always, I feel like he always had it in him, to do something, heinous. I mean, he continues to be manipulative. I mean, I kind of read up on, what is he doing now in prison. And I mean, they hated him so much that he's not even in Colorado. They had to do a prison swap, and he's in actually Wisconsin, and has been there since 2018 because he got beat up. when he first got into prison. I mean, and so, but I mean, and
I mean,
I've got a few notes on what he's been doing now.
hold on, before you go there, I want to bring up an interesting concept that you were talking about
Yeah.
because I've always dabbled with this concept with my clients, especially the male ones, okay? I've always said that if they've had a strong, I don't know why I want to wear hats so bad, but if they've had a strong domineering mother
Yeah.
and then they get a partner who's strong and domineering,
Mhm.
the role is switched. So the man usually is the more dominant. The
Mhm.
female is subservient. So if you're a male
Mhm.
and you're being placed in a subservient role, that throws off the alignment of things. And that's in
Mhm.
any relationship.
Mhm.
It's kind of like, okay, well, when Shanann, when he got with her, they say you almost get with the same type person that reminds you of your mom or reminds you of your dad and this, that, and the other. So
Mhm.
think about all those unspoken anger and trauma that he had towards his mom that may have led this to eventually bottleneck into the eruption of killing his wife.
Mhm.
Does that make sense at all?
Absolutely. And if you think back, to when we were kind of talking about this, and we kind of touched on it for a very little when we were talking about Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy actually had a hatred towards women, right? When we know that, it's obvious. I mean, he would go for very specific females, right? And we kind of talked a little bit about, his mom was young. His mom didn't know who his dad was, or at least it was unknown, and it was never presented. Like he didn't know who his dad was, and his mom was young, and then when he had his first heartbreak, he went with that female, after that he started killing, right, that female that ghosted him, and
Hmm.
he started going after for young females that were in colleges, something that he always wanted to. So we kind of bring that mentality back over to the Chris Watts. If his I think you're onto something, because if his mom was very much in her masculine energy, and he grew up that way, you grow up that way, and you grow up with somebody telling you over and over, you messed up here, you messed up there, you messed up here, and then you end up marrying somebody that's that way. And we know Cheyenne was bossy. I mean, her friends say she's bossy, so we know she was. You know, then it kind of gets to a point to where a person could bottle all that anger up, and it exploded. Was it right? Do I agree with it? No. I
No.
don't think that there was anything that Cheyenne, even if Cheyenne was bossy and and all that, that still I would never agree and say, oh yeah, man, yeah. I mean, I would have killed her too, and like, there's
Right,
nothing
right.
that a person can say or do that would constitute us saying, hey, yeah, she deserved it. No, she did not deserve it. But I think it just goes back to, what we talked about. People you need to sort your shit out. I mean, you need to sort it out. If you know that, hey, I've got some anger issues towards my parents or towards my mom or towards whomever, you need to sort it out. Get into
Right.
some therapy and sort that out, because you carry that, and you're going to continue to carry it, and it's going to you're going to deal with it one way or another, and it's going to manifest in very different ways, so
So what were you going to
yeah.
say about the how the case
Oh,
lies now?
yeah, so let's talk a little bit, and these are just some nuggets, right? So, if you guys know or don't know, so we know that they moved him because he got beat up, so he's not safe in Colorado. They feel like it doesn't matter where, we place him. That case is very well known in Colorado, so he's not safe. So he's in Wisconsin. We know that, and he's been there since 2018. So he's gotten some disciplinaries since then, but they're very minor. Nothing big. I mean, it's just, and he received like punishment for that. You know, he got his electronics taken away for one offense. The other offense, you know, he got his phone privileges, you know, taken away. One thing that is interesting, and I don't know if the viewers know this, but his mistress, Nicole had to go into the witness protection program. So we don't know
Wow.
where Nicole is. We don't know where. That's how much,
Wow.
you know, hatred towards her, and they, you know, and threats to her, you know, came about, that she is in the witness protection program. So we don't know where she's at or what's going on with her, and we never will, unless she decides to come out of that program. But one thing too that we know is that there in 2019. Now this is very interesting, and I cannot wrap my brain around just how much of a psychopath he is. So in 2019, people online found out that he has pictures of Cheyenne and the girls in his cell. So they started a petition. They were able to generate over 20,000 signatures encouraging the warden to take and confiscate those pictures. People felt that strongly that he should not have pictures of the victims. But unfortunately, there wasn't anything legally that they could do. I mean, is it morally wrong? Yeah, I don't understand why he would do that. But they can't stop him from having those pictures. You know, they can only
Right.
confiscate if they're nudity, if they're gangs, you know, so, you know, certain things that would cause a disruption. But him having pictures like that, it just didn't go anywhere. But people made, like back in 2009, people made a big deal about that. We know that he does have a Bible in his cell. You know, in 2022, but it leaked. One of, I said, like a prison guard leaked out that he has not stopped receiving correspondence from women. Women are writing to him. Women are and he corresponds with them. One thing that he buys from, you know, commissary is going to be the stamps and envelopes, and that is his only escape. When he turned 39, he just turned 39 in May 16th was his 39th birthday, and we know that he hasn't had any visitors. So his correspondence with these women through letters and phone calls, that's what he has. I mean, he does have a job. You know, he's a janitor, you know, there at the prison, you know, so we know that, you know, he's a janitor. um and then we also know that his house remained vacant for 4 years. And throughout the 4 year, they had to tell people to stop bringing you know, flowers and teddy bears, you know, because they made the home as a they had to tell people to stop doing that because nobody was monitoring that. I mean, you know, so finally, you know, people did stop doing that. And in 2022, someone purchased the home, a family purchased the home, and now a new family, you know, lives in the home. And it's they bought it because Cheyenne and Chris bought the home in 2013 for right under, you know, 400,000, and they sold for 600,000. And you know,
Wow.
the family of Cheyenne put a thing out to where he couldn't benefit off of the sale of the home.
That
They
makes
took him
sense.
to court, you know, to get that. So that's kind of where we are, you know. I mean, he is doing his time, and um you know what's going to keep him safe. And now shifting over to what I know based upon, you know, just the years that I worked in corrections at TDCJ. I didn't work in Wisconsin or wherever he's at, you know, just TDCJ. And something that we know is when the hype when his hype goes down and no one's really looking at him, and because right now he still has a lot of eyes on him. The warden's going to make sure that he stays alive, because no warden wants to lose an offender of any kind. You know, it doesn't matter who you are under his belt. You know,
Right.
because that'll, man, you know, you can go to prison for that. You know, you find yourself on the other side of things. And so right now, they're protecting him. He's in general custody. He's doing great. I mean, the guards to an extent are going to be there to, protect him, make sure he's okay. But because everybody's still so fascinated with this story, and we're still talking about it. You and I are talking about it today. But when all of that dies down, 10 years from now, when no one's talking about it anymore, someone in that prison will murder Chris Watts. And that is just my prediction. My prediction. Maybe, who knows where you and I will be in 10 years, and where our viewers will be in 10 years. But,
Right.
it
I mean, it's
happens,
interesting that you
instantaneous.
it's interesting that you have that thought process because pretty much that's what happened to Jeffrey Dahmer.
Hmm.
All this stuff kind of died down, and then bam, somebody
Bam.
took
Yeah.
him out. You know,
Oh, yeah.
so
And I mean,
so
and
let
they do, because because like what you were saying, and I'll say this. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Just if for the simple fact of what you said, Marty. You said, how can he do that to his little girls? Like, these were little innocent children that had nothing to do with anything. They did not ask to be born. They were completely, totally innocent. Based off of that, that's going to be enough for somebody to say, you know what, I'm already in here for life doing, because of whatever they did. If they can't kill me two times, so
right.
somebody will take a vengeance on him.
I mean, I'm not trying to laugh, but that's true. I mean that whenever you've worked in that environment, you kind of get callous to the statement like that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm not laughing because I'm trying to be callous about it. I'm just like, you're right. They can't kill me two times. Um, yeah, this is such a. I mean, even now we're talking about it 2 years later, 3 years later. I mean, when it was going on, I was very intrigued by it. But like I told you before, what I want to talk about next is the correlation between him and Scott Peterson.
Hmm.
Because I used to get both of those cases confused. Scott Peterson, almost the same, almost the same mo, right?
Yeah,
Almost.
very, very closely. Yeah, very closely. I mean,
But
he
him and
also had,
Lacey
I think.
didn't already have children, right? They were just about to expect their first or something.
Yeah, yeah. Connor was their first baby. And and we never know, right? We know that they struggled, when they first started to get together, because he made him out to be something that he wasn't. The business that he had of treating lawns and all that, that came from the stepdad that helped him get that. They had a little restaurant there for a little while, and then they struggled. So he wasn't this mastermind. But when he talked, let him tell it. It was a totally different thing, right?
Right.
Put himself in a position where I am successful. I am doing all of this. And so yeah, it's very, very much, the same mo, except for, we don't know if Chris Watts wanted to be a dad. We've never
Right.
known that. But Scott Peterson didn't really want children. So I think,
Really?
when, it doesn't, yeah. So I think when they put it, you gotta be, if a man tells you that they don't want children, believe them. No, they don't want children. It doesn't matter how good of a mom you're going to be, or or how good of a wife you're going to be. If a man does not want children, believe that. And so we have Lacey, who's, beautiful, and, and everything, pregnant, very, very pregnant. She almost carried him to full term. I mean, Connor would have survived in a NICU, you know. And he had his mistress, and, even though his mistress already had children, his mistress already had, I believe, a little girl, I believe. um but it just goes with the whole, I it's just all about me, selfish, selfish. And so that is kind of, interesting between Chris Watts and Scott Peterson, that they have a lot of that selfishness, that me, that narcissistic, the narcissistic traits, are there. I mean, Scott Peterson was a little bit more savvy. Now, I need to do a lot more. I need to get my facts down straight, for us to talk about Scott Peterson. But I know that here recently, the Innocent Project has picked up his case because of a technicality. They're saying that there was a robbery that had gone wrong
Yeah.
across the street, and so he is a smart cat. He's did he not? I don't know, but it's going to be very interesting to see what they come up with. So, but yeah, there's more to come out on Scott Peterson, because he is, because Scott never, he pled guilty and everything, but unlike Chris, he didn't confess. They have a full blown confession with Chris Watts. I mean, he said, I
Yeah,
mean,
they did. Yeah, they did.
yeah, I mean, poor guy, but with Scott Peterson, he never gave a confession.
Didn't
He
they
didn't confess.
recently find Lacey's body or something? I mean, I'm not trying to be morbid, but didn't they pull her body recently or something like that?
Uh no, well, her body was pulled. Whenever they found him, the bodies ended up coming back to shore.
Oh,
And
okay.
so we know that Connor detached from her. So she in essence, gave birth to Connor, and his little body came about. With her, it was just a torso that they have. They didn't have the
Didn't
arms,
he
legs,
rent like a
had no
boat or
idea.
something? Didn't he rent a
He
boat?
had a boat. No, he didn't
Something
rent a
like
boat. He
that.
bought a boat. Yeah, he bought a
Okay.
boat. He bought a boat, and and he had made weights, cement weights. And so, when a body is in the ocean, and whenever our gases, our own gases, we're gonna float up. We're gonna
Right, right.
implode, right? We're gonna implode. But
Sure.
they're saying that the weights, and that's why, we she didn't. It was just a torso, but we don't know why she was beheaded. We don't know where they never found her head. So the Roaches just buried a torso.
It's always fascinating to me the level that some of these serial killers, or not serial killers because they're not all serial killers, but all these killers will go to dismember or overkill. The anger, the personal part of it. It's like, if I'm gonna strangle you, that means that I'm. It's about control much more than anything else. It's up close and personal. You're having to feel your life leaving you, so to speak, rather than the stabbing or the shooting, which is almost instantaneous. So those individuals that would strangle the John Wayne Gacy, those types of killers. It just intrigued me to they would want to get that close to their victim to feel that manifestation of life leaving them.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And it's just that, that control.
yeah,
That control of, I am in control. So whatever happened, they're in control. They're the ones that are powerful. And so that is, it takes another level of, you know I can't imagine, but yeah,
yeah. I
they
mean,
detach, they
yeah.
detach.
I mean, it's a level that I wouldn't believe anybody can get there unless you just snap. Like, there's a reason they say he just snapped. When you
Hmm.
snap, there's no reality to your madness. You just reach that point where right is right and there is no wrong. That
Yeah.
opportunity presents itself, the opportunity, the urge, as you were saying the other day, that urge that you're finally gonna you're finally gonna release the beast, so to speak. And I
Yeah.
can't put it in another way. I'm not trying to be morbid or anything like that, but that urge, you just can't overcome that urge anymore, and you just succumb to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it explodes, because if you've been suppressing, trauma,
Yeah,
or of whatever kind. I mean, because, at the end of the day, these men or women, whatever we may call, whatever we're talking about, at some point we were all kids. And if you experienced trauma as a child, and you didn't, nobody helped you, you didn't feel safe, you didn't, you hold all that in, and all of that anger in, and if you don't deal with it, it's gonna explode. We're gonna deal with it one way or another. It's just
right.
how, when do you want to deal with it? So
This is a great comment right here. There's not an explanation for Chris Watt, so don't go by appearance. Of course, and that's why I'm so conflicted sometimes with the recent cases that people are like, well, there's no way he doesn't look like a killer, or she doesn't look like a killer, or
mhm.
there's no way they could have done it. She's just a sweet grandma, or this and that and the other. Hey, we're talking about a mindset that has been ticking for a very long time.
Yeah.
And of course, there are those spree killers, there's the thrill killers, there's the killers that, walking down the street for whatever reason, bam, I'm going to kill tonight, go and kill somebody. But in reality, whenever we have these individuals that are serial killers, they've been they've been going over this in their mind longer than many people even understand. And that's what I was trying to point out in the live, I think it was last night, where I was profiling Koberger,
Mhm.
and I was going over that, and people were kind of saying, well, that doesn't mean he's a killer. That doesn't, excuse me,
Mhm.
that doesn't mean this and that and the other. Well, of course it doesn't mean that. But you know what? You have to start somewhere. People
Mhm.
weren't, I mean, a lot of individuals, either they were born that way or they
Mhm.
were created.
Yeah. Now, to the person that made that comment about the appearance, here's another take. If we remember, Ted Bundy tried to use his appearance as his defense. Do you think that I would do that? I mean, look at me. Do you think I would do that? So much so that it was when he jumped out of the window, and escaped, right? When he got back brought back into custody, he called the psychologist and said, "Hey, what did you think about that? What did you think about that? Tell me what you thought about me, escaping and blah blah blah." And he kept on using his appearance was his or he what he thought, I am gonna be able to get away with it. Because I am good looking. I mean, a man knows if they're good looking or not. And I mean, and yeah, appearances, don't let them fool you. And I think the commenter, the person listening, just hit it on the nail. You're absolutely right, because they hide behind that charisma. They want you to believe like, why I couldn't have done this. There's
Well,
no way.
you're right about that. And the ability to blend in.
Yeah.
The ability to blend in. Most, how many times have you heard he didn't stand out. He just blended in. He went to work. He was a good neighbor. My kids loved him. And here's a freaking serial killer,
Hmm.
Karla. A
Yeah.
freaking, I mean, how can
Yeah.
you? I mean, it just blows my mind how because they did a study one time. I think it was in the early '90s or maybe the middle '90s,
Hmm.
and they were saying that on average we cross paths with probably two or three serial killers a day.
Oh yeah, people that oh yeah, well, and even more that have the that have that urge, and they're a ticking time
I
bomb,
mean,
and
think
that's why that's why I always tell women, believe the actions of the people around you, believe their actions, because their actions are going to tell you everything. Don't manipulate anyone into being with you or staying with you or doing any of that. If a man doesn't want to stay with you, then so be it. Bye, get another one. Don't do that, because when you start to do that, you don't know what that person's past is. Whenever you start to try to manipulate somebody, you could trigger something in that person that you don't want to trigger. And it is, in people that are damaged, and they don't work on their stuff, and they've suppressed it for so long, are dangerous, and can, like you said, snap, and snap, and that's why I always tell, whenever I'm out talking to people or talking to my friends or whomever, I always give that advice, just believe it. When a man tells you that he doesn't want you, believe it. You don't want kids, believe it. Don't try to manipulate it. Believe it. And if that's what you want,
so. Do you? I
then
mean, we're
you
not
need to
we're
believe it.
not victim shaming here. We're not saying
No.
people deserve what they get or whatever. We're not saying that. We're saying to be vigilant whenever you're listening to your gut instinct. Okay, this guy is starting to get a little cringe. You know,
Yeah.
he's he's following me. He's making comments about everything. He's just cringe.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
makes you feel really off the wall. You're just like, man, I just and by that time it might be too late. You might have a stalker on your hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing, Carla, that I was reading about also because I read a lot and I watch a lot of movies and this and that and the other, but I'm flexing. Um, you know, voyeurism when a when a an adult male is young, 13, 14, voyeurism. Watch out for
Mm,
voyeurism in your little boys.
mm.
Voyeurism is not saying that they're going to grow up to be a serial killer,
Yeah.
but it escalates to stalking. It's almost
Hmm.
like seeing what your desire is from afar and placing that in your head that this is the object of my affection.
Hmm.
This is the way I keep connection with them. And then it escalates to stalking.
Hmm.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
Want to
Yeah.
opine on that?
Yeah, definitely. I think you're right. One thing can lead to another, and then to another, and then to another. Well, and I think that, whenever I worked for early childhood intervention, and I would coach moms into, with their toddlers, and I would empower my moms not to give in to the toddlers. W- And the reason, a lot of it is because, sometimes some of these men, when they grow up, they are men already, they don't do well with rejection. They don't do well with somebody telling them no. But where does that start? That starts in when you're a toddler and you're throwing a fit because you want that ice cream. So I always tell moms, mean what you say and say what you're going to do. Don't lie to the child. If you tell them, no, you cannot have that ice cream because you know that it's going to ruin their appetite, or what, it doesn't matter the reason. You're the boss at that point, then the
Yeah.
answer is no. And don't give in to that. Don't give in to those tantrums, And so I would have a whole spill on that with the moms, because some of the men, when we start talking to them, and not saying that, you know, that I could foresee anything, but rejection is hard. But if you can accept a no as a toddler, and you know that it's not always going to be your way, and you grow up with that sense of, you know what, I have rules and I have to follow them, because if I don't, there's going to be a consequence.
And it works in the other direction as well.
Yep.
If you if you've always been given what you wanted, the other form of rejection hits as well. You know,
Mhm.
like the first time somebody tells, or somebody tells you no, like you're saying, and you just don't know how to handle that. It's like devastates your world.
Yeah.
You know how many of these people that we display their cases were vulnerable. They accepted a ride. They went and helped somebody. They were doing the what we're taught. Be kind to people. Help them out if they need something. We're not
Hmm.
saying always go around in this world like you're going to be a victim or a potential victim, but you have to be vigilant. And I say that all the time. Be vigilant of your surroundings. Be vigilant of the red flags that people give you because, like you're saying, your gut doesn't lie.
Yeah.
Last night I was asking the chat, and I'm going to ask you because I want your perception on it. Whenever somebody, because we're talking about Koberger, and he's been identified as a
Hmm.
creeper, as
Okay.
a creepy guy. So, at any point in your life, whether it be male or female, um, have you ever described somebody with that moniker, creepy? And if you did, what made them creepy? And don't you dare say me, because I'll unplug you right now.
No, 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 no. Like creepy, like that gave me, like kind of like a bad feeling, like that, like that I had a bad feeling of.
Well, what does creepy mean to you? Like when somebody is creepy, like you tell your friends, "Hey, that person's kind of creepy, man."
Yeah,
What is their behavior or what do they do that gives you that idea that they're creepy?
yeah, yeah. I think it's just, I mean, just personal experience. I mean, it's just a feeling. I've always been one to just to go with my guts,
Okay.
and so and I do that, but I would, even now. I mean, I'm gonna get real. How many people are in the chat? By the way, I'm about to get vulnerable. I don't want, if there's 200
There's
people in the
eight pe-
chat, I'm not.
there's
I'm not
eight
gonna share the
people
story.
there's 8 people in the chat. You're good.
Well, okay, eight people will hear this, and then that's it. But so I've shared with you guys that I have breast cancer, right? I've shared with you guys that, and I've had a person here recently that, as a matter of fact, that even yesterday I was thinking, this is a little creepy, and I'm a little weirded out. And so this person, I have, talked to, but I haven't gotten personal. I haven't, and this person, and he's a male, and I got a marriage proposal, you know, uh, through text, and I mean,
How romantic.
yeah, and it was like, hey, I have a great idea, and me, we were talking about my niece, and I don't know. I don't think I've shared with you. Or yeah, well, you're on my Facebook. You see it, Marty. That she got a full ride to Howard College, and what's what we're texting about. And then it was like, hey, I got an idea, and I was like, what? Like I'm so like, what? Like give me your ideas, because I always want to know people's ideas. We should get married. Well, there was no response from me after that that text message. I was like, no response is a response for me, and I thought this is really creepy because a you know where did this come from, and two, you don't know me that well, to do a marriage proposal. I mean, that is, we haven't seen each other, for you to for me to get married to anybody, and and it's creepy, and so for me I had to like quickly think on my feet, and I was like, okay, I'm just not going to give it attention. I'm just not going to give it attention because a part of me thought, like, because I have cancer and everything, like, like, do you feel sorry for me? Like, I mean, because I'm okay. Trust me. Like, I have a lot of friends that love me and care for me, and
Right.
by no means do I feel lonely. I mean, I'm single, but not lonely. Like,
Right.
there's a big difference. And I mean, I have all of you guys, 8 of you in the chat, and you. I mean, like, I don't feel lonely.
Right.
And so moving forward, in case anything happens to me. No, I'm kidding. But moving forward, I just didn't give it any attention. The next morning, this morning, the person texted me, good morning, and I was just like, I can't entertain that. And I thought about, my quick defense is I'm gonna run, I'm gonna block, I'm gonna blah blah blah, but now I've learned that sometimes, if you are not right in the head, and I block you and I, blah blah blah, it's only gonna it's only gonna get worse. It could be some people, they do something you don't like them, so okay, so you block them, you do whatever, and then they get it and they're like, okay, got it, done. But other people, oh my god, and so I am just battling that, but I just decided, I'm just not gonna, engage, and that's creepy to me, to get a marriage proposal. I mean, I don't even have hair. you know but I know it has nothing to do with my appearance. I'm just deflecting. I know I'm deflecting, but to me that's creepy. That's creepy that a person would think that giving me a marriage proposal, I think we should get married, is a good thing.
Let me
you know
ask the chat: have y'all ever had that happen to y'all? What do y'all think about her soul, her bearing her soul on this? We support you. But have y'all ever had somebody propose to you out of the blue like that? And if you have, how did you handle that? I mean, have you? I asked this question last night, and I didn't get a lot of answers from the females. But um, creepy.
Yeah,
What is creepy to you?
yeah,
Leon
that's
says
creepy.
a woman knows creepy. They're quiet, kind of staring, and they like you.
Yeah,
Kim says,
creepy.
I think Carla was love bombed.
Definitely love bombed.
What
And I
is
didn't even,
that?
really realize what that I was being love bombed. Like, I'm like, what in the world? So love bombing is a typical narcissist. They do
Okay.
this. It's a narcissistic trait, and it's a trait where in the beginning you are everything. You are perfect. They shower you with affection. They shower you with everything, that you want, and it makes you feel great. I mean, because who doesn't like to be, love bombed, and yeah, so I probably was definitely, love bombed, for sure, um,
Oh
with
my
it
God.
all, and oh, it was crazy,
Heather
but yeah,
says,
no,
yep, got me a ring and put a tracker on my car. Total
oh,
stranger. 10 days prior. Good
yeah,
Lord.
man,
Man, people
that
move
is crazy.
fast.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
When
let's
you
see.
proposed to, oh, come on, Jeff. When you proposed to me yesterday, 12 gates, I was pretty sure you were just joking. You were right. Humor can be found in everything. Oh, Jeff. Wow, Heather. I mean, 10 days and you put the tracker on your car and gives you a ring?
And
Here,
and my ex did that. Well, she didn't put a tracker. She didn't put a tracker, but she wanted to do that. I think it's called Family 360. And
yeah,
it's a tracker. They're tracking my phone. She wanted to track my phone,
yeah.
but it was like for me to be safe. It's a safety issue. It's a safety issue. I'm like, oh no.
She
But yeah,
says, dude was probably my father's age. It was in
yeah.
2007.
Wow.
I remember it like it was last week.
I'm telling you, it stays with you. It definitely, I mean, this one will probably always stay with me, because it was so out of the blue. I won't
I'm
ever
not
forget.
laughing at you. I'm laughing at a comment. Christy
Oh,
said, and you let him go, Heather.
Heather.
Come on, that was a
That's,
cat. That was a catch right there. You let him go. He
yeah,
put an Apple tracker on your car, and I mean,
my God, 10 days.
some people go to the extremes, and in some of these cases, I've wondered that too. Like, in the Idaho 4 case, because I've always talking about it. Did somebody put a tracker on their vehicles? We Nobody's ever talked about that.
Yeah.
They said they were stalking, but did they ever put a tracker on their vehicles to know where they were? Maybe they knew the person was coming back because of a tracker. You know, I guess the creepy just don't see their own creepiness. You're probably right.
No, they don't. No, they don't. Mm-mm.
Met him through Cleveland's Fox 8. He owned a business with Fox 8 sports guy who was a silent partner in the company.
Well, he had
A little
money.
very thing.
You should have just accepted that. No, I'm kidding, Heather. That's
Oh wow, watch Fox 8. Well, I mean, creepiness. Like I said last night, we were talking about Koberger and his creepiness, and how he's viewed as a creeper, and this and that and the other. And
Mhm.
I've always. Do you believe that sometimes? I don't want to put this in a way that kind of makes it sound like the women are too too quick to shoot from the hip, but do you believe that sometimes they take wrong hints or wrong gestures as being creepy? Because I
Yeah.
mean, it seems like these days, you know, you could be nice to somebody and oh my god, you're being creepy. Oh my god,
Hmm.
you're being cringe. Whatever. Do
Hmm.
you think sometimes people go overboard on the other extreme and make it difficult for individuals to be nice? Because there's some
Yeah.
people that can't take there. I've ran into some
Yeah.
people. I've been nice to them. They take niceness for flirtation, and they
Yeah.
get weird with you. You're like,
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I think that's why getting to know somebody is so important. Because if you've experienced trauma in your life, childhood trauma, and everything, and it includes the opposite sex or whatever, and then somebody's just trying to be nice to you. you One thing that I've learned about myself is that because it feel okay, so our bodies, remember how I talked about that our bodies feel everything, right? Okay.
right,
So if you're hypersensitive, and you're hypersensitive because of your past or whatever, and you start to get the butterflies in your stomach, you convert that in your brain into, this is a good feeling, because this is a feeling that I remember, this is the feeling that I would get, and that's the feeling right before maybe your dad beat you, or right before you blah blah blah. That's actually your body telling you, get that heck out of there. So whenever you meet someone and you're like, "Hey, I didn't get these butterflies in my stomach. I didn't get that. There's something is wrong. Something is wrong. They're creepy. They're cringe. They're this. They're that. I did not get." So a lot of it, it does have to do with that other person, because they didn't get the butterflies in their stomach. There wasn't an alert in the system, in
yeah,
our system, because maybe that was just a nice gesture, that you read too much into that or whatever, and that's happened to me. And and I've had to, over these last couple of years, I really had to kind of dig into, where I needed to know. I think a person needs to know what triggers they have, and where they're coming from, right? Because sometimes we shoot at the hip really quick, because we didn't get that feeling, but we didn't understand that you got those butterflies because that was your fight or flight system telling you something's about to go down. So when you meet someone that is a potential person that is not going to be good for you, you get the butterflies, and so you tend to be like, oh yes, this is the person, and then bam, you know
Oh,
so
I was doing the thumbs up to Shelly. She was saying she didn't know my name, and I
oh
was just doing the. She says I'm a great guy. I've she said I like the personality of the host. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's not fake. It's not for the camera. This is who I've been all my life. I've had a very calm demeanor. Just
very calm. You are very calm. I've known
so
I've known you for quite some time, and yeah, this is you.
yeah. I mean, it's interesting that we're up here doing this after all these years.
Yeah.
That who would have ever thought? Some of the escapade that you put me through when I was younger. I mean,
I
stop
know.
sign breath. You remember that?
Yeah.
Anyways, I won't go there. I won't go there. But
You better not go there.
you know, when I'm just laughing inside right now. Whenever we're talking about, being vigilant and being aware of your surroundings, it's always great to maybe do a background check on people. What's your credit
Yeah.
score? I mean, what is your, because many people think that that's out of the realm. That's kind of being rude. That's kind of being judgmental. But you know what? Don't you want excellence? Don't you want something that you see in the mirror every day? You want something great, just like you, right?
Well, I think
Well,
I think I think I think what it is more, it's more like this. Being in this area that I'm in, right? There is the DFW, right? So that's kind of the area that I live in.
hmm
There's so many people. Whenever I came from a little town, and so the little town that I'm from, you could be like, hey, I'm talking to XYZ, what do you know about, oh yeah, he's this, he's that, or whatever, you kind of get a feel. But whenever you're over here, you don't get that. Like, as a being a woman, we don't know if what you're saying is true or not true. I definitely don't feel like women are out there looking for excellence or perfection, but definitely, you definitely want to know, like, I don't know if you're familiar with the Risa Tisa. She was, oh my gosh, she was with a narcissist, and he had her looking at BMWs and homes, $1 million homes. This guy didn't have a dime to his name, but he lied about it, and had he have just told the truth, she probably would have given him a chance. He was just a forklift operator, but he portrayed himself and lied to her, saying that he was, like the CEO of the company, and all this
yeah,
stuff. Just really lied to her about a lot of things, and got her hopes up of a lot of things, and that's kind of the thing, it's like, definitely we need to definitely, if you're a woman, you definitely need to run those background checks, or even males, you definitely need to run those background checks and make sure that the female isn't married, or make sure that the
right,
female, like, so because then that way you can pick up on lies. Is that, if I know, and not necessarily, I mean, if you took a look at my credit score right now, my credit score is crap. It really is, because I was a finance, with my narcissist that I came out of, the relationship that I came out of, I was kind of financially
right,
abused
right,
in
right,
a way. And
right.
so my credit score right now is whoa, but you use that, if I'm with you and I'm promising you, hey, let's go to the BMW house and let's get a BMW, and girl, your credit score is in the 400s. You ain't getting no dang BMW,
I'm
it,
with
it
it. Let's
helps
go.
you.
Let's
It
go.
it helps you think like, oh, she's lying.
Yeah,
Like, she's not gonna buy a BMW. She's got a credit score of 450. Like, it, not saying that, hey, you've got to have a credit score in order for me to date you. That's not it. But it does just open your eyes to, okay, yeah, okay, we've got a little bit of bad credit here. That's fine. But then when they start promising you, hey, we're gonna go look at this $1 million house, then you're, hey, that's a red flag. we know we can't afford that. Why are we
Right.
have, why are we looking at that, you know?
Well, that is another red flag. Also, I'm glad you brought that up. Y'all were talking about love bombing. You know, an individual that is really pushy in the very beginning. You got to be careful. You know,
Yeah.
you got there's a difference between trying to overcome getting the female or the male to show a little more interest. You know, sometimes we play the cat and mouse game. You know, I'm gonna make you chase me a little bit. I'm gonna make you um, work for this, so to speak.
Hmm.
But you know, after a while, they should let you catch them. If they don't let you, if there's no catch, that person's not interested. Move on, move around. You know, because sometimes you're facing a long journey of pain in that aspect. And you
Hmm.
know, you just never know what that person is bringing to your doorstep, especially if you have young children or if you
Yeah.
have grandchildren or whatever. You know, you have to be very mindful of what this person is bringing to your doorstep
Yeah.
because you can't just let anybody into your world like that because some people are narcissistic enough to take you for a ride. They're insane enough, sociopath enough to give you the whole song and dance and never want to commit one day in their life. You know, they don't want anything that you want. They just want to. It's almost like when I was younger, I had people that would talk about, you know what, some people are not really into the idea of love. They're
Hmm.
just more into or I'm saying it wrong. They're not into actually being in love. They're into the idea of what love is.
Hmm.
It's kind of like the romance, the sappy song, the gift, the courting, and all this stuff.
Hmm.
And they're really not into the actual connection of what love really is. You
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
I mean, we've kind of talked an hour and 37 minutes. How's the chat doing? Are y'all still with us? I mean, can we go a little longer, Carla? You okay in time
Yeah, no,
frame?
I mean, I'm okay. I'm
Okay.
definitely okay.
Give us a one if you want to continue, a two if you're kind of fizzling out, because we're talking about a lot of different things now that doesn't has anything to do with Chris Watts or true crime or anything like that. We're talking about emotional attachment and how to defend yourself and when it comes to knowing enough is enough, when to walk away. And I think a lot of individuals just don't know when enough is enough. You know, you don't
Mhm.
have to constant. You know, when it comes to domestic violence, you know, I've heard that it takes an individual like 10 times before she actually walks.
Yeah.
10 times. So think about
Mhm.
that, chat. That
Yeah.
means that this person goes, leaves, files a restraining order, goes back and forth 10 times before they finally say, you know what, enough is enough. I've had enough.
Yeah.
I'm going to do something different. I'm finally finding, and usually this is whenever the perpetrator kills them, or
Yeah.
they stalk them, or they make their life miserable because they're not able to control that person anymore. And it works both ways. Women do it too. You know, women do it too. You know, women stalk men just like men stalk women. You know, it's universal. So
So,
just
and then too, like you were talking about, so let's kind of tie in what we were talking about earlier for them to see why we were talking about it and why we got vulnerable. Because like let's talk about Scott Peterson for just a second. Had Lacey of ran his credit score wasn't probably going to be that high. Let's just assume, right? Because he was just going from one job to another job to another job. But when he met her, what did he do? He also courted the mom. He brought
yeah,
a big bouquet of roses. It wasn't just, but it was a big bouquet of these beautiful roses. It had she just playing devil's advocate here, not saying that this is right or wrong, but had she have done like what we're suggesting, hey, maybe do a background check. If you're truly interested in one person, do a background check. And had Lacey have seen that, hey, he's inconsistent with jobs. He's not, he's got his credit score. Let's just assume that it was low. We don't know that it was low or not. We don't know that. But let's say this that he does. And then he shows up with this massive bouquet of roses for you and roses for your mom. That's a red flag. That's it's gonna be that should have been like a really big red flag to let her know, like, hey, I'm getting love bombed here. Because you really have the means to really buy these flowers like this? Because I mean, if you're sitting there with, $12 in your bank account, you shouldn't be buying this. I mean, if you spent your last $150 on flowers, at that point it's going to be kind of like, hey, because would you know? Like a normal person isn't going to be like, I'm gonna go spend $150 on flowers to make me look good. They're gonna be like, no, I'm gonna spend that $150 towards rent, towards
Right.
me eating the rest of the week, my gas money. Like, why live above your means? And sometimes some guys that end up, where they're courting you and stuff like that, especially like Scott Peterson, we know these details are coming out where they did grand gestures when they couldn't afford it. And
Yeah.
why? It's to hook you in, because if I can do this and I'm smoke screening you with all this, you're not going to see this. In all actuality, I don't have a job, so here, to help them out, her family helped them out a lot. And what happened, in the Scott Peterson case, is that whenever the suspicion was coming on him, you know the family dismissed it. Her family dismissed it right off the bat. Nope, it was not Scott. Do not go there. He loves her. This is his world. He is devastated by I mean, they came to bat for him, until they couldn't bat for him anymore. And they couldn't bat for him anymore when Amber Frey came and they found out that he had a mistress. And then that's when the Roaches started to separate from Scott Peterson.
Yeah.
So it's so we're saying all of this and we're talking about all of this, and everything, but I want to give the audience a clear picture as to why we're doing it, because we're trying to get you to see where it kind of starts and how it can go and where it can go. Like, for now that we see, hindsight is 2020. We didn't know all of this. Lacey didn't know all of this, but had she have have done just background checks or something, she would have known immediately, like, hey, why is this guy buying, like, this is something that you do when you don't have any money. Why is
Right.
he trying so hard to impress? you know so that's kind of how I tied it in, with the Scott, Peterson, because there's not very much, and there probably won't be until book deals are, people are
Yeah.
making money, but like where people are gonna start talking about what it was like, what did they do, kind of like the Scott Peterson, case. That's how I know it so well, just because there's just, the Roaches have opened up a lot about, or Miss Rocha now, the stepfather has already passed, but, of the beginnings and what happened to them, and, and all that, and how much, and once again, we have a woman, which is Lacey. She didn't deserve anything. And I'm not saying that she did, but just to play a little bit of a devil's advocate, we have that, here it is, a woman again saying, hey, I want to have children by this time, by this date. I want to have children. I want to have children. And so it's interesting, like, you got to find yourself a partner that is going to have, that has the same goals as you do. because if Scott didn't want to have children and you're pushing him to have children, and Chris Watts didn't want to have children, and but you're pushing him to have children, you're essentially manipulating that individual.
Right.
And I mean, like I said, I'm not at all saying that these are justifications for to go out and commit atrocities towards women or towards any other human being. But at the same time, it's kind of what we're talking about, is that we have to learn as a society, to accept people for who they are. And you
Of
could be
course.
like, I like you, but if you don't want a family and I want a family, then you're not for me. As much as I
Right.
like you, you're not
Let,
for me.
let me ask. There's somebody in the chat that had a question. She said, "Does do you have any thoughts about Madeline Soto? Do you know the case?"
Oh no, I
Okay.
do not,
Well,
Madeline.
I
So
have
yeah.
I have some thoughts on it because I kind of researched the case a little bit when it first hit.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically where the mom had a stepfather. Madeline was 13 years old, I believe, um,
Mm-hmm.
and the stepdad was sexually abusing her,
Mm,
taking photos, doing the whole, the sexual abuse, and it was found out that she went missing. She went missing, never made it to school. Come to find out, the stepfather murdered her
mm,
because, for whatever reason, I haven't really caught up with it since then. Um, yeah, 1,700 images of essay stuff on his phone they found, and the mom was standing behind the stepfather. Like, I guess that's what they're really asking is, do you believe that um, the stepmother knew about it, or whether she knew about the essay, or whether she kind of just did it for financial support? Like we're talking about, people stay
mm-hmm.
in relationships for different reasons. Um, she was 8 years old when this started. Madeline was the little girl.
Oh wow.
Um, Law enforcement showed the mom images, and she said she did not recognize any of the body parts. So, do you believe that the mom was covering up for the stepfather, or, I mean, when you watch the interview, if you go back and research this case, because the audience would like to know your thoughts on it, so maybe you can research it, and next time you're up, you can speak on it. But when you watch the interview, the stepmom had that battered woman syndrome look.
Mm-hmm.
She has that battered woman syndrome look. She's very stoic, very, taking up for the stepfather.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they're saying in the chat they think the mom knew. They
Mm.
they all slept in the same bed together. How could she
Wait,
not?
they slept in the same bed together?
Yeah,
Oh wow. Mm. Oh
and she was
wow.
13. She
Mhm.
was 13
Mm.
whenever the atrocity happened. If the mom wasn't feeling good, she'd send the daughter and the boyfriend to another room. Oh, it was the boyfriend, it's not the stepdad.
Oh, okay, the boyfriend.
Okay, so um, yeah, so the chat knows a little bit more than I do about it because I never, I caught the beginning, but I just,
Mm-hmm.
you know, life happens and you
Mm-hmm.
kind of just blink out a little bit for. But I mean, just hearing this stuff just turns my stomach. I mean, but
Yeah.
also, I want the chat to know something as far as the culture. All right, and I can only speak for the Hispanic culture because obviously they're Hispanic, and not saying that what I'm saying is actual truth that I know this is what's going on. But a lot of times, the dynamic in the Hispanic culture is the mom can know, but a lot of times the mother is not in a position to leave. She may not have education, she might not have job skills, she might not have the ability to go anywhere. Maybe she's been beat down to the point where she's she's just there physically. She's not emotionally there. She's um
Hmm.
I agree with you, Heather. You said who tells their 13-year-old her adult boyfriend to go sleep in another room at 2024?
And the thing about it that we have to kind of think about is going to be, and I don't know much about the case. We know that, but just from what you guys are sharing with me, not all women are meant to be good mothers. Okay,
Yeah,
so
good
it
point.
all kind of starts in the beginning, kind of like what me and Marty were, what you and I were talking about. In the very beginning, when you're toddlers, when you're this and when you're that, if I'm going to use a personal example because that's what I know in order to kind of explain it without getting, I'll lose everybody if I start explaining things too technical with technical language. So for me, just to kind of explain it, I don't have children. I never really wanted children, never really had a desire for children, And where did that come from? Where did it come from? It came from my parents immigrate. I mean, my parents are immigrants, from Mexico. They came over here. And all summers after school, I was in charge of taking care of my sister. My parents did not make that much money to hire babysitters for us in the summertime. So basically, I was a mom, doing mom things, for since I could remember.
Right.
So to the point that my sister sometimes will give me Mother's Day cards because she's like, you were more of a mom, right? Because my parents, they worked. I mean, and both of my parents combined income was, wasn't enough, even
Right.
back then. So I knew, growing up, that I didn't want kids. As you talked to me about having kids, I'm like, what the heck, that's a trap. Like,
Right. Right.
I've been a mom, I've already done it, in my mind, right? I didn't, because I was forced, I didn't have a choice. So you think about that now. If I got with somebody and got trapped for whatever reason and I ended up having a child, now imagine my mindset. And
Yeah.
my mindset, I didn't want to be a mom, but
Right.
here we are. Something happened, I got pregnant. Now I'm forced to be in that role. Now when that child is born, that motherly instinct may or may not kick in.
Well, let
So
me
it's almost, you gotta go back to see, because not all mothers want to be mothers, and so
let
when
me
we
ask you a
think about it.
question on this, Carla. Not trying to interrupt you, but my mind
Yeah.
goes really fast. Um, how could you rationalize the fact that your boyfriend is potentially harming your child? I mean, not wanting
Yeah.
to be a mother is one thing, but that's your child. How do you rationalize that in your head?
They
Would it be the same thing we were talking about, Chris Watts?
Yeah, absolutely, they detach and they actually hate that child. They actually hate that child, look at the child as an object, as a you're here, and you're not, you're interrupting my flow. What happens to you, I don't care. you know uh, and my culture may not have been too keen on, maybe giving up the child for adoption, so here I
Right,
am, and you just start to detach. Just for the same reason that I did a human trafficking paper when I was in college. And when I asked the panel, what is the youngest victim of human trafficking that you guys have? Some people did 10, 12, 13. But people, raised their hand and gave me some numbers and everything. And I was like, try 6 months. 6 months. There was a baby, 6 months old, and the parents sold the child for SA. 6 months, baby. Okay, 6 months. So So they did completely detach. That's what say, not all people, not all mothers that have children want to be mothers.
Right.
They don't want to be mothers, and they look at their children. That's just that same psychopathic, a detachment that happens, and they start to look at the child as an object, kind of like the that other little boy. Oh my gosh, the trials. I can't remember the name. I'm getting chemo brain. Where the mom would put the child in a box and allowed the boyfriend to beat him. My gosh,
Oh, I know what you're talking
Gabriel.
about. It
Yeah,
was yeah, Gabriel, that Netflix.
Gabriel, and it's like, how could you do that? How could you stand there and allow that to and join in? That's your child, and it's because they detached. She hated her own child, hated her own child, and out of that could justify everything that they were doing to that child. I watched that show, that documentary on Netflix. I watched it one time. I watched it all the way through, and it comes up on my thing, because I'm always watching true crime and everything. So it comes up on my
Right,
thing, and I
right.
cannot stomach to watch it a second time. I just can't. And that's where that comes from. That's that psychopathic
I mean,
mindset.
you know, I want people to understand this. People stay in situations not because they don't want that they want to. A lot of times, in certain cultures, it's almost, what else am I going to do? It's
Hmm.
kind of like if you've ever had a toxic relationship and you kept going back to it, and you kept asking yourself, how come I keep going back? How come I can't leave it? How come I keep going back to this? I deserve better. I know I need to do better for me and my kid, this and that and the other. But the sweet talk is there, the flowers, the dinners, the whatever. Then you go back, and then within a week or two, it goes back to the same scenario. And you ask yourself, well, how come I keep going back? What's wrong with me? Well, that's gaslighting. That's a form of brainwashing, almost to that point, where
Hmm.
this individual has a hold on you so deeply, and you've allowed it because you don't know how to break free,
Hmm.
because you always go back. Have you ever met somebody and say, "Oh, you'll be back"? Where are you going to go? Nobody
Hmm.
wants you. Your family, you've ruined that bridge. They don't want you.
Hmm.
They don't like me, so at this point they're mad at you. Where are you going to go? Because you've gone back 5 or 6 times and you keep coming back to me. Is and I'm not victim shaming here. There people do have the reason to keep going back, but there's always those skeptics out there. Well, you should have just left. You should have just left.
Hmm.
But sometimes it's not that easy. I mean, we can look at somebody's life and we can say, "This is how I would have done it. This is what I would have done. This is what they should be doing." But we don't know the insinuating circumstances that they live with on a daily.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of females and there's a lot of males that just do that. They go through the motions, and some of them are responsible and they leave. They actually get to the point where they walk away
Yeah.
and they don't look back. But
Hmm.
it's unfortunate we hear about the situations where people don't leave, and the only way out is the end game. And
Yeah.
that's terrible. Well,
Yeah.
we're getting to almost the 2 hour mark. I wanna pitch an idea to the chat while we have at least 9 of you in here. Um, I'm gonna play something for you guys, and I want you to give me your opinion. I didn't write it. Um, I'll give the I'll give the individual credit here in a second.
Mm.
So let me know if you can hear it, because I mean I don't have the ability to. very awesome. That, my
Mhm.
friends, is Jeff H.
Hmm.
And you're very right, Heather, with what song that is. What I'm wanting to do with the on Friday nights to give us all a break from the true crime madness is I'm trying to get with Jeff so we can have kind of like a coffee shop atmosphere where he plays music and you guys come in here and you can chill and you can talk and you can do whatever and I can flash this across the screen and you guys and you guys can tip the guitarist, not trying to make monetary gain out of anything, but it's difficult to play to an audience, and I want to know what y'all's opinion is about that. If you guys would show up where we would have live music, we wouldn't necessarily be singing. I don't know about that. I would be the hype man. So I would keep the flow going. I'd be getting everybody crunk up in here. But at a lot of people don't go out, and this is their form of entertainment. Especially on a Friday night. And I'm thinking about starting this. I don't know whenever Jeff feels like he's ready, and kind of trying it out. So y'all be thinking about this and where we can have requests, we can have, kind of just a good time. Um, so be thinking about this and let me know how many of you would be behind it. Put a number one if you'd be behind this new idea. It would be True Crime After Dark. So um, so I want you guys to give me a number one. And also, the tips would be for, guitar strings, malfunctions of any kind of YouTube stuff. We wouldn't be, whatever. We're not trying to get rich on here. Um, so we're gonna try this out whenever Jeff feels up to it, or he's motivated to do more than a couple sets. Um, and I might even get on here once I get the guitar up and going. Might get on here and do like a comedy hour or so where I'm attempting to play guitar. So, if you want to get on here and see me um, do my best trying to play guitar, then we can do that as well. But Jeff, I'm very excited about this. You just let us know when you're when you'd like to do this. I think it'd be a very good time, especially with the chat. Because we all need sometimes some live music, and what better way to get it than to get it from your own home. You know, what do you think, Carla?
I think it's a good idea. Definitely, it gets people talking about what they want to talk about. It gets people in distraction. Meanwhile, you're kind of bringing that atmosphere, into the homes. It's kind of like, whenever, you go out to eat and there's live music and you're eating and you're chatting and you're kind of bringing that same vibe. But you're in the comfort of, your own home and you're in your safe space, and still, enjoying, some music, and just, getting to know people, or talking about a topic, talking about, whatever it is, the chat wants to talk about, and then, I think it's a good thing, because then you're here, and you can, if people have questions, about something, they're able to still access good information, because I know you're going through school. I've been through school, so we try to give the people, correct information, not what we think or what we, and if we are giving our opinions, we state it, so they know like, hey, this is just her opinion, but they're able to access good information. I think it's an awesome idea,
Right.
you know.
Hey Jeff, there's the link if you want to hop up and play a little bit of the Grateful Dead, if you know any of it. We're trying to stay away from stuff that would get a copyright strike, so maybe let's try some stuff that really we know would not be copyrighted. So I don't want to strike. That's terrible to do a big old live and then get a copyright strike. Jeff, there's the link. Hop on up. Give us a little bit of taste before we sign off. Come on, buddy. There he is, the man of the hour. Man of the hour.
I hope I don't look a hot mess.
Hey, you look great, Jeff. How you doing, buddy?
And there's probably, let me make sure there's no crap behind me.
Hey, you look great, Jeff. How you doing, buddy?
Uh-oh.
I hear an echo.
Got a little echo. I think that's got to be me. I mean, I don't have any.
An echo.
Oh, you know what? If I do headphones, it'll go away. Hold on. I don't have any. Hold on here. All right. How about that? Does that sound better now?
Yes.
So now I don't know. Well, I was showing you earlier. I usually. Oh, we still echo? Oh, you know what? Hold on. That's me. Sorry, I didn't mute my YouTube, so I was hearing echo.
Okay. All right.
Now I think we're normal.
Give us a
Yeah,
little
so-
taste on what to come, Jeff. They're all for it.
All right. I always keep this guitar like right here, right next to me, so I can just always, because a guitar in the case will probably stay in the case 90% of the time. So a
Right.
guitar within arm's reach will probably be in your hands 90% of the time. So
Right.
let's see. Can you hear this? Is it coming here? All right, let me take one ear off so I can hear it. All right. Here's something I was wanting to learn for a long time, and it finally did. I remember it. Here you go. Ah. Oh wait, that's got that other little part. Then it goes. Nah. There you go.
All right. All right. Let's hear it for Jeff, guys. Let's hear it for Jeff. Give us a clap. There
So,
you go.
12 gauge, you play guitar at all? You know, a little bit or none?
No.
Or
This guitar needs some strings, man.
yeah.
This is what I know. How's that?
Dude, that is amazing. You got to teach me that.
How about this? There we go.
You want to see the very first thing I learned how to play? I should just take this thing off. It's just getting in the way. The very first thing I learned to play, there was this kid that lived across the hall from me. We lived on the third floor of an apartment, so we were on one side. He was right across the hall. His door was open, and I could hear guitar coming from his apartment. And I walked by, and he's playing a guitar. So I guess he was taking lessons from somebody. But the very first thing he learned was this. Let me put, we can see the guitar. So it's just on these top two strings, and he would just go. Right? And then you just move it down two strings. So probably for like the longest time, that's all I knew. But then if you take it and expand upon it, I still play this, that little tune, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's just blues. But you go like,
All
so
right.
a little something.
Yes, yes,
Thank you.
yes. So this is what we're thinking about doing, and on our Fridays, if we don't have any true crime to really discuss, and Jeff has the time, you guys log into the live and let's have a good time. Let's listen to some music and
You know what would be funny, 12 gauge, if I could play this so accurate that they think it's the actual, and then you get a copyright strike. Should we try it?
right. Oh
You could
man,
you could fight it because you can prove it's me playing it. Here you go.
go ahead.
Yeah, I messed it up a little bit so that they know it's not the real. Uh, sorry. There it is. Here's another one of my favorites. You know this one. Um, I love Joe Walsh.
All right, man. All right, man. I'm impressed. I'm impressed, man. I mean, you know,
Uh, this sounds better on an electric guitar, but it's another Joe Walsh. You know that one? And then it goes. And so, so
all right. So you've been listening a little bit, Jeff. What do you think, really, in closing, about everything we've talked about? You think it's on point?
well, I
What's
gotta
your
be honest.
take on Chris?
I was listening to multiple things.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest with you. Um, and I was even working on a graphic for Linda Lane. So, but
Okay.
but yeah. And I probably have ADHD too. So
Not a problem, man. Not a
But
problem.
no, I think it's interesting. I love to hear you guys analyze the psyche of people and these people that clearly have issues, whether it be from a Chris Watts all the way to like a marriage proposal to all the way to Heather's
Yeah.
situation with the guy. It's like
Yeah.
you know I just wish sometimes like the guys that are going after they're looking for what most guys are looking for. They're looking for a female companion or a companion, male companion, whatever. But I just don't understand why it's got to get to the point of violence. That's
Right.
just so unfortunate, especially if it's like sexual related. It's like, can't you just go take care of yourself and leave this
Right.
person alone? Don't end their life over, you know. I mean, I think of like Chad Daybell in the in that Lori and Vallow and Chad Daybell. I mean, was the sex that good, and was the
Yeah,
money that desirable that they're going to
right.
put two kids in the ground? I mean, it what and you claim to be following God. What? And
Yeah,
at no point before you go to bed do you stop and think, "Hold on, I got to rethink my life. What have I? What is going on here?" Although but devil's crafty, man. Before you
yeah.
know it, you're so far off the path that you started on, and you don't know how to get back. And it's like, oh man. So I feel for people like that. But I think anytime it seems to me like anytime you're on the wrong part of the path, you know, you chart your own course. You step off the path. Get on, find the right path.
Right. Exactly.
So
Exactly. Well, guys, I guess I'm gonna close it out because we've been here for a while. I said I'm gonna take a weekend off from this, and obviously I couldn't. Hopefully tomorrow or the next day you won't see me live. Hopefully you'll just I'll hit this back up next week. Um, I hope y'all enjoy our concept in the future. I love live music. I mean, especially calming music like that. Love it. So I lost my
that
train of
that song
thought.
is
I
yeah. I thought
lost
I
my
put
train of thought, man.
like the other day when you were on and you had the calming music and you were man,
Yeah.
that was such a. I was doing a lot of driving because I had the dog trying to get him to the vet, and I was just listening, and I was wondering, it's like the dog, he might, he listening to your voice. I was like, you probably don't need to go to the vet anymore. You probably feel better now, right? You there's got to be
Man,
a healing
wouldn't that be
power.
something? The dog whisperer, huh?
That's right. 12 gauges can heal the dogs.
Right. Then I really would have to put this up there, Jeff. I would have to put this banner up there.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, if you saw what the vet charges to fix the dog,
Yeah.
yeah, if you could do it, I'd definitely give you some.
Kim says, "Best to you, Carla, with your health."
Oh, thank you, thank you. I mean, I'm hanging in there. You guys saw me get up a little bit. I looked at the time and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to take my medication. So that's what I did. I went and took my medication. But as far as my health, I mean, I'm doing good. Be starting radiation on the 17th. So I don't know how that's going to affect me. And I may be pretty tired, so I may join, but definitely maybe not be on the actual panel. Just sometimes it
Right.
depends. I know when I went through chemo, when I went through chemotherapy, believe it or not, I would get so tired. It was to talk, and
Mm.
I conserve every ounce of energy. You know, so I may, I mean, I'll be in contact with you, Marty, letting you know how I am, how I'm doing. Whenever I start radiation, because radiation's every day. So, I may still be coming on and joining and just being an audience and participant. But, if that happens, I just want to know, let you guys know. That's probably why. It's just, I if I get too exhausted, I know when I went through.
Right.
That's one of my fears when I went through chemo. That happened. I don't know how radiation is going to be. I don't know how I'm going to react to it. I don't know what my body's going to do. But my health is
Yeah.
I'm the fight. I'm winning the fight. So
Mm.
Right. That's good. We're behind you. We're behind you. I
Definitely,
mean,
100%.
prayers and everything. We're behind you. Just keep us informed, and the rest of you guys, if you're dealing with anything, any of you in the chat, just know that we got your back. Sunday. See, I already told a fib. Sunday, I'm planning to do my weekly. What I do on Sunday mornings. The calm, the the music playing. Kind of like the little spiritual, where you can come in here and you can just talk and get stuff off your chest that's been going on for the week, and this and that and the other. Yeah, the mental health check-in. Just for individuals to be able to, even if you want to come on panel and tell your success for the week. I mean, together we can make it through this. Together we're strong. Single, we're not so strong. So be here on Sunday morning, probably about I guess 11:30 or 12. That's morning to me. Um, but you guys, if y'all stick around after I close out the live, I'd like to talk to y'all for a couple minutes if y'all are okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sure, sure.
So, chat, thank you so much
Yeah.
for hanging in there. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for all the well wishes for Karla, and take those well wishes and prayers and kind of wrap them around yourselves as well. Remember to be vigilant, remember to be safe, and remember that you're not alone in anything that you're going through in your life. Just hang in there, tie a knot around that rope, and hang on. Take a breath. Sometimes it takes just to go out and take a walk. Don't beat yourself up and try to understand that it's just a moment in time. It's not a life. It's
Oh,
not a
and
lifetime.
every now and then, play a little guitar.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
I love
Well, well, y'all know what time it is. What do I always say?
Maestro,
Cue the music.
cue the music.